Mike, I'm an alcoholic. And yeah, a lover of crack cocaine and opiates and benzos. What are we doing now? Is that good? Okay. My sobriety date is wow. My sobriety date is Barry White, this fucking. My sobriety date is 4/7/17. That was a little old slip that occurred when I thought I could be a sober companion. So needless to say, I haven't done that work since because money was my higher power, extremely my higher power. And I was offered many jobs after that. And I lied about that relapse until about 2022 when I went through this work again. And I saw that pride and ego was going to kill me. And there was one person in here I told that to. And that man held my mud because he said, "You'll know when the time is right to tell this." And I was so concerned. I didn't want my mother to know. I didn't want my wife to know. God forbid Jolie knew or any of these lovely followers. I'm just kidding. Because, that's a man of my stature does not relapse. So 4/7/17, our group is the Whoop Whoop Sunlight of the Spirit, 5 o'clock at 123 West Windsor on every Sunday, the luxurious Windsor Club. Don't get it twisted. So 5 p.m., I'll say it again, thank you. Say that. I just want to, it's quick qualification. Yes, I cannot smoke cocaine, eat opiates, drink vodka, 40s, or whiskey safely. Now, I knew that back in 1981 when I was in my first residential program as a 16-year-old. It made perfect sense that I was robbing every apartment at the Oakwood Gardens. It made sense why I couldn't seem to control the amount. I wanted to control the amount at about 15 or 16. I started really trying to do that because I'd been drinking since I was about 12 or 13. I grew up in Hollywood, surrounded by Quaaludes, cocaine. My mother's boyfriend was a drug dealer, Shylock. He knew a bunch of henchmen, just like really dark, insane people. But the thing is, yes, it was a dysfunctional family, but I made it even more dysfunctional. They were just doing what they're doing. My mother has 40 years, but at the time, she was drinking her gin, eating her lewd, snorting her coke. Like, they were clear on what they were doing. I was a scandalous, ripping, running, robbing, gaslighting. Like, I learned these techniques early on through just simple addiction and alcoholism, right? So I have no power, choice, or control. And what I saw is usually the reservation that I had for many years coming in and out was the reservation about the allergy. See, I knew I had these obsessions with an S, but I never really, that allergy thing didn't go deep dive. I had done the work in 97 with Shelly, if anybody knows Shelly, Jaime's wife, of course, a bunch of people do. And she was funny, she was like, "I don't think you have the allergy." And I'm like, "Oh, I have the allergy. Do you know what it is?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know what it is." So we went through the doctor's opinion, and I couldn't see it for alcohol, Jermaine. I could see it for cocaine. I could see it for opiates, for benzos. I couldn't see it for alcohol because that's how cunning, baffling, and powerful this is. See, the reservations that are made for me bring me to places that I didn't know I was going to end up. I did not make reservations for hotels. I ended up there, and I didn't want to end up there. Isn't that crazy? So I start to see, believe me, Camille, I would not have made reservations for the Royal Viking. Trust me on this. It's an LA thing, but or fucking Arthur's Hideaway, or whatever part of the area you're in, trust me, I've been in a hotel there. Especially the Sepulveda corridor, if I may. I got time, right? 2:30, is that my thing? Okay. So I see that I'm going to smoke and drink with no power, choice, or control on my part. Sober or not, I do not make the decision to get loaded. I actually, towards the end, I'd say for probably the last 8 years, decisions were being made for me in a sober state because I was driven. If you think you're making decisions, good on you. I don't make decisions. I'm either being driven or I'm being a little guided maybe by this power. There is a little place in the center, but we all know we can't stay there long. Gonna fall off after a minute. That's why people come back into the rooms with 20 years and they literally have a gun at home that's loaded with bullets. Because if I can't get this time, then that's it. I was talking to Mike the other night. He said sometimes it's easier. People just want to kill themselves than to face this terror, this pain of what we have to see, the truth of the lie. If we're deluded by self, how can I totally rely on that thing? Easy, I've been doing it my whole life. So I see in step 2 that I love this. This one has been standing out the last couple of years. I've had some new experiences. I am abjectly faithful to the God of reason. Spiritless servility. That's what abjectly faithful to the God of reason means. It means that I'm relying on a failed system with no power, choice, or control to go anywhere but there. See, I just needed a power greater than crack cocaine and vodka. That's what I needed. And that's why they told me, go to as many meetings as you can, stay in this set-aside prayer. They told me, these heavy-duty people are like, oh no, you better fake it till you make it. You better act as if, but just meet every week and we're gonna go through this work in this set-aside prayer and get very clear on seeing that you don't have a God problem, you have a self problem. And I had no idea what that meant. How could I? I'd been relying on self my whole life. I grew up with massive amounts of trauma, abuse. I don't need to get into detail, but if you want to talk about it after, I've done a lot of work around all this. And I started to see that in that survival mode of resentment, fear, it's why I started burning things down at 5 years old. I couldn't stand anybody around me. I was burning things down. This is weird. I was peeing all over like the sofas that my parents loved. I was doing the grossest, weirdest shit, and I was doing it out of spite, and I was laughing about it when they were like, whatever. What I'm saying is I will go to any length to get you back and to laugh about it. That's where my resentments take me, and they follow me right into adulthood. So, abjectly faithful, right? To the God of reason. Can I be moved towards a power greater than money, relationships, future tripping, or cringy reflection? Because those are usually the things that are eating my lunch, right? These are the things that if I'm not making an effort to enlarge a spiritual life, I don't enlarge my spiritual life. Let's get clear on that. That ended with whatever, a 20 and a 40. If I'm not making an effort to move towards this power in the day that I'm in, then the self, the fear, whatever you want to call it, will never be overshadowed by this power greater than self. That's just the truth about it. Like, we make efforts to enlarge our spiritual life. We show up, we practice, even when it's ridiculous. Like Karate Kid. Dude's like, I'm getting my ass kicked. I really need your help. He's like, cool, go paint the fence. What? Yeah, go like wax the floor. All these different things we do here, we just want to stop drinking and using. But now you want me to do this? I already took the steps. I looked at them on the wall, kind of did a spiritual buffet thing. That's cool, that's cool. No, I'm not doing that. They don't owe them. I don't owe them amends because they don't deserve it, whatever. And we do this thing in order, and we have this experience, and we get carried. It's like Jermaine said, what was once a flimsy reed becomes this powerful, loving hand of God. And that is the consciousness that we're talking about, right? The underlying totality of all things that's kind of buzzing in this room right now. I can feel it. So step 3, I will remain in this. I had to do this because it's just better. Trust me, my brain's like Swiss cheese. Things fall in there and they're never to be found again. I will remain in this vacillation between self and God daily, and through this work, I will gradually lose interest in self. That is not something I just wrote. That is my experience. I have lost interest in self, not all the time, but I think about my sponsees, and not in a codependent manner. Thank God that got removed. But I think about how I can be a service. I think about how I can show up. I just think like, all right, let me just kind of turn out of this thing because I'm seeing that I'm getting back on my BS. And let's just turn out and call and talk to somebody. So again, this is about the enlargement, right? I did everything I thought I could do to see that there was nothing I could do. What that means is in the program and outside of the program, I absolutely did everything I could do, you guys. And I'm not saying that therapy wasn't helpful. I'm not saying that all of the methods, some of the methods we have tried, weren't helpful. They just didn't spell the necessary, vital spiritual experience that had to happen for the person that's standing in front of you right now. So you were talking about, where is he? Oh, the third dimension, or the fourth dimension. And I was thinking about the three dimensions in which we live in. And I feel like the fourth dimension is just a little more. It's just like this little glimmer that comes in beyond this plane, right? Especially if there's no clocks and calendars in the realm of the spirit, right? I was thinking, Matt, you remember DJ Shadow, right? Is it okay if I call people out? No, I'm doing it anyway. Do you remember that song that started insight, foresight, giving you more sight? I was thinking about that today because I think that's what this process does for us. You know, we uncover, discover, and discard through this power, through this work, and it creates so much space. We are relieved of the bondage of self. And if you don't feel that way or you're not having that experience, you don't have to be having it right this second because we vacillate, right? I would ask you to really consider what that's about and maybe have an experience with somebody of depth and weight that you can actually approach that. All right, let's get into it. Resentment's the number one offender, so it destroys more alcoholics than anything else. So that means, see, I thought crack was the thing that was going to destroy me, alcohol. But what I saw is resentment was the number one offender because that occurs when I'm separated from alcohol and drugs. And I want to tell you, no, I'm just a little irritated. Nah, it's not that big of a deal. No, this asshole jumped in front of me in traffic and it got a little weird, but you know, whatever. I followed him to Starbucks and I beat him down. But for the most part, it was fine. Matt, you remember that? Matt was my sponsor at the time. He's like, you need to go make amends for that. I'm like, let's let it breathe a minute, bro. He's like, I'll go tomorrow. Let me just finish. And I did. And what can I do to make it right? Never step foot in our Starbucks again. So sometimes, you know, that's what you hear. So when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out physically. That was 2013, right after my sister OD'd and died. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. So I can't do the reverse of that. I'm sure enough people have been in here that have been in tons of rehabs. You get in the rehab, kind of sucked up, get out of detox, like, oh, we're going to the gym. Oh, yeah, I got to go shopping. I got to get these fucking Nike SB. Blah, 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 blah. And before I know it, like I'm dressing everything as well as I can because I'm dying inside, right? Because it's not that I have low self-esteem, it's that I have such high expectations on me and on you. They never come through, and it gives me a feeling of low self-esteem, right? We gotta get clear on this stuff, man. Because if I think I have low self-esteem, then wouldn't I keep trying to have a high self-esteem? And I remember saying to Mark, I don't know, man, I just have low self-esteem. And these guys used to lean in. You wanna know why? Like, oh yeah, I wanna know why. He's like, because you keep going to self for esteem. And I was so confused that I was no longer depressed. I didn't know what that meant until years later that I'm in self-reliance, so I always feel weird and up here or down here. Rarely am I in that place of neutrality if I'm not really doing a daily practice, right? We're good, Dano? All right, just want to make sure. So we list these resentments, right? We put them on paper. People, there was so many. Dude, I don't know how you only had 46 resentments. I'm actually jealous. I had so many resentments. I was the guy with the big notebook and the whole thing, and I carried it like it was a cross. I got to 175 because I thought it was who I was. Do you feel me? I thought I was my resentments. I took stock all right, but I held on to the idea that that's who I was. And if you're driven by self, 100 forms of fear, I want you to consider you had no power, choice, or control over those resentments. They're whooping your ass without your, don't laugh, you know it's true, without your permission. So why do I keep claiming sickness? Why do I keep saying, I'm in self-reliance? Yeah, you sure are. Keep going, until it fails. I'm this, I'm that. Does that mean we're not accountable and clean these things up? Of course. But I don't think claiming spiritual progress is talking horribly about yourself all the time. I could be wrong, but not in my experience. I watch the words. There's so much intention and power in these words. We're good? All right, cool. So yes, many people, many institutions, principles, very important the last time around, was looking at these deep-seated, deep-rooted ideas about myself, about women, about money, about my mom, about society at large, about the world, about geopolitical conflicts, like this whole crazy thing where I saw that I was playing these roles at such a deep level that I was completely irked, and I was just kind of again, doing what I did my whole life, right? So those got rooted out to the point where they just aren't as sticky anymore. Do they kind of pop up? Yeah, but they're not super sticky. They're more like billboards now that I don't stop and, totally focus on. So what are we looking at? Self-esteem, pride, ambition, security, personal relations, sex relations, and finances. I didn't know that I was gonna be doing that part of it because most of the inventories I did were just on these sheets where you check stuff off, like you're ordering sushi or something. And I was like, wait a minute, what is all this? It was like, no, we're gonna really deep dive. No, it affected my self-esteem. No, I know, it was the pride thing. He goes, no, let's really talk about that. Because if I'm assigning you roles and I think I have a role, it totally means that things need to go this specific way, or these 7 areas of self, like Dude said, are gonna be hurt, threatened, and interfered with. So again, go back through our lives, referring to the list again, putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done. I didn't know this even existed here till I had this BBA experience many years ago. We resolutely looked for our own mistakes. Remember, we were driven. We made a lot of mistakes, right? Selfish, I don't want to give you shit. Dishonest, I'm probably going to lie to get some shit. Self-seeking, I'm trying to get everything I can to fill this cavern that's unfillable, except for a power greater than myself. And frightened, fear. And the fear usually comes from a heavy dose of mental anxiety that creates an emotional state in here. And I'm literally getting tag teamed. So is there a spiritual sickness? It depends on what I'm worshiping. If I'm worshiping self, yes, I'm spiritually sick. If I'm making my way to a power greater than self, then that would mean there's not spiritual sickness. I mean, it feels that way, right? The experience is that way. And again, Dude talked about it. That gives us some 9-step foreshadowing. I really want to get into the fear. Fear. This word is bracketed, right? It tells us. But I want to do this a little further in. We reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper. Even though we had no resentments with them. So there's the fears that come from resentments, and then there's a whole other set of fears. But ultimately, we get to ask ourselves why we have them. I never asked myself why I had fears. I was just, why are you afraid? I don't know. I'm just afraid. This gives us an opportunity to look at the mental states that are creating the emotional state, right? So, wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? I'm always afraid because I keep going back to a failed system. Isn't that weird? Gee, how am I going to get out of that? You're not. There's no way of entirely getting rid of that without God's aid. I mean, That's what it says, and that's my experience. And I can tell you it's a lot of the experiences of the people here. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. I know what the finite self looks like. I don't always know what infinite God looks like. But the finite stuff is becoming very clear. When I'm being like an alpha doormat in my relationship, that is the super finite self. Oh no, it's fine, honey. What the fuck? It's weird. It's like, God, I can't believe I'm on that bullshit again. But that brings me in to the sex inventory, and it's about motives. What are my motives in my current relationship? I have very clear, open dialogue with my wife. We've talked about divorce probably 6 times in the last 17 years, which I think's a record. I really do. I think that's really cool that we can talk about stuff like that and see what that looks like. About separation, about divorce, about me doing my own thing for a while. And being really okay with it, right? Wow, you guys, this has taken me to a place that I just did not think possible. We got 2 minutes? 2 minutes? Okay. So I would ask you to really consider these questions: arousing jealousy, suspicion, bitterness, and look at this idea of writing. I just wrote a current sex ideal. Right? This is what we're growing towards. Not, I should have never gotten involved. I should never got involved with it. It's like, wow, God, show me how to grow towards this ideal. Show me what does it look like for me to be a better husband? See, you can play all the roles you want, just don't get it twisted on who the director is. If self literally cannot get out of self, and I'm still playing each one of these roles at depth, I will be living in 52 like there's no tomorrow. But if you have the ability, real ability, to have just a little bit of spiritual foresight by doing this work, you will be able to, it says master. I didn't believe that for a while. It doesn't mean not every master doesn't fail once in a while. It just means perhaps there's a better way, right? And that's what we're talking about, this better way. Perhaps. This is a path of considerations. You don't have to agree with any of it. Did I drink this way? Did I think this way? Did I feel this way? That's it. Just go down the path of considerations. It's not what you're doing is right or wrong. The real question, if you can ask yourself honestly, in the day that you're in, is this working? Is what I'm doing working? And if it's not, I should probably talk to somebody and get clear on what's happening so I'm not buying the lie, right? So I love all y'all. I love it here. Thank you, Dano, for asking me.